I'm on Earl Field Monday through Friday. Earl's still recovering, so I'll be there. Willie's going to be the interview today at 4 o'clock. You're going to hear about Willie Bearden. All right. And listen to all the great things he's done around not just Memphis, but the Delta. And then I'm going to fill in for Nation of Jake in the third week, or March 11th through 15th. That's a 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock. And the first show we hope we're going to figure out today will be a remote broadcast from right here with Mary Beth Conley, hoping to be here at 12 noon on her show. And then we'll follow up. That's the Women in Memphis History Show. And we hope to have some of the women that are actually mentioned on the program will be here that day, and we'll get them interviewed for 2 hours on the radio, maybe some other women as well. Also that month, you got the Women of Achievement, March 24th, and you got the Women's Symposium here later on in March at the Pink Palace. You're on a hot set, by the way. How many didn't take the staycation pledge? You need to take it today. You ready? Raise your right hand. Kelly Howe, you got to raise your right hand. State your name. Let's go. Do solemnly pledge to make at least one staycation in Memphis during the summer of 2019 to an attraction that I have never visited. After doing such, I will tell a friend of my wonderful discovery and strongly encourage him or her to do the same. I promise your life will never be the same. Right, Bill? Bill agrees. What are you eating? Metro Eats? They're good, aren't they? Lady, is Miss Tatum here today? She was here. She came on my history tour after about 8 people on the history tour to Peabody, and she makes these little gifts like this. And I'll bring it the next time. It's really neat. If you want to write this number down, you want some classic Memphis gifts like this that can set up on a table or whatever, I'll bring it the next time. The 252nd birthday of Andrew Jackson is Friday, March 15th at the Judge of the Army Bailey Courthouse. We've already talked about that. We're going to sing 8,000 Redcoats, see how they run to the tune of 3 Blind Mice in the hallway. The Let P.M. Ingo chapter of the Daughters of 1812. A War of 1812 soldier might show up right there too, but we put the wreath down in honor of General Jackson. And April 7th is the Shelby County History Festival at Davies Manor. This is all free. Carriage rides, Model T, exhibits, nature hike, Manor House is free. Go out I-40 to exit 20. The brand new exit is done. It's the best expressway exit in the state of Tennessee. Exit 20 there, Canada Road. All 2 of the Elmwood tours sold out, so they added 2 more and they sold out, so they added a 5th thing at 7 o'clock at night, where I'm going to do a PowerPoint there on April the 6th. If you want to call Elmwood at 774-3212 or elmwoodcemetery.org to get in on that. It's a $40 fundraiser. It's a reception, wine and cheese, stuff like that. That's going to be a good, different thing there. And I might come back later on in the summer and do some more Elmwood tours. We're talking about that. November's the 23rd annual Davies Manor Quilt and Fiber Art Show. Aren't y'all surprised I have the word quilt in my vocabulary? It's a good one. November the 6th. I'll be back Wednesday, November the 6th for sure. Hopefully by that time we'll get the 1934 on the signs. Wouldn't that be a great march? Now I'm going to do it at 6:06 at night, but if they get those signs up, we're going to do it at 11:06 in the morning too. 6th minute of the 11th hour of the 6th day of the 11th month. You see what I mean? We did that on 2011 too to make it all work, kind of like the 10-hour tour. So be ready for that. Oh, the 10-hour tour will be Saturday, October the 10th, 2020. It's the next time. It's the Saturday, October 10th is 2020. So it's the 10:10 on the 2020. At 10 minutes after the 10th hour, the 10th month, the 10th day, we're going to walk 10 hours. It's easy. I was number 10 in high school, number 20 in college. It's real easy in my life. And look right, you see the river gauge I do. That's going to go over 40 for the first time. I get to put a 4 up for the first time ever in 5 years. We haven't been over that since 2011. And there's a whole schedule of that tour as we go through the day. If you don't want to walk the whole thing, you can pick on or come in at some other time. And you get a certificate of walking if you make the whole 10 hours without lunch with me, you know. ShelbyVote.com, become an election official, voter registration events. There's a vote coming up March 12th. I talked to Linda Phillips on the radio the other day about how you do that. I did that. Am I going to make you take the vote? What? Work in the election pledge? We're going to do that today? We'll wait, okay. Hey, and next Tuesday and Thursday, I'm going to be doing the commentary on the Island Queen. You must arrive before 2 p.m. I might give you a free coupon next week, or it might be $10 rather than $20. It'll be a better deal. But if you want to come down and ride the Island Queen with me in high water and learn about the city from the river and all the river stuff from the river, that is the time to come, March 5th or March 7th. I assure you. I was honorary duckmaster at the Peabody Hotel in 2011. There you go. That was fun. So March 9th, 17th, and 30th. That's Saturdays, March 9th and 30th, Sunday, March 17th. I'll be doing the tours there as Duckmaster. It's a great tour. Mr. Tatum came down. And I think we're about ready to go. Is it 12 noon yet? You ready to go, Luke, Jess? Oh, watch this. Here's the tall building here. Look at that guy right there. How'd you like to be the guy cleaning the pyramid? 321 feet tall, sixth tallest pyramid in the world. So that's him closer up. That's him closer up. I kind of followed him around that day. So look at here. This is 8 acres of gleaming stainless steel. Okay, there's over 8,000 panels that are 30 inches by 16 feet. We used to have one on display at Wesley's till it burned up in a fire. That's number 3 brushed stainless steel. You got that? You're writing that down? Number 3 brushed stainless steel. Russ Simons told me that because he was the engineer that did it. Number 3 brushed stainless steel. Our sponsors again, Vincent Astor, Phyllis Peterson. Is Phyllis here today? Okay. Erickson Group, University of Memphis Libraries, Communities and Conversation series at Rhodes College. See y'all.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Luke Ramsey, and I work in the Education Department here at the Pink Palace Museum. We are so glad that you could join us today, and if you wish to revisit this talk later or to share it with a friend, the entire lecture series will be available on our website at pinkpalacememphismuseums.org or through the University of Memphis Library. Our speaker today is a lifelong Memphian and graduate of both Memphis University School and Memphis State University. In his extensive experience, he has managed some of this community's greatest assets, including museums, the Park Commission, and that band of ducks in the lobby of the Peabody Hotel. Will you please help give a warm welcome to the Shelby County historian, Mr. Jimmy Ogle.
Thank you. You know, I am still the Shelby County historian until about 5 o'clock this afternoon. They read the minutes of the meeting 2 weeks ago, and that one becomes official. Jimmy Rout III will be your new Shelby County historian, and he's going to be a good one. And so thank you for keeping on. I guess you still say President Clinton or Secretary Clinton, so I can still be historian. Okay. Historic tall buildings. Look at all everybody. I'm sure everybody remembers Goldsmiths. Okay, and I found that yardstick right there, and I think that's pretty cool right there. Of course, that scene right there is from the top of the 100 Club, on top of the 100 North Main building. You know, if you go on the Adams Avenue side, it says 100 North Main. I'm on Adams. But anyway, Memphis Heritage, would like to thank them. Please write this down and take a picture. WTHS-TN.org, West Tennessee Historical Society. You can get those 6 Paul Copic books for $50 each, folks. That's a good deal. Register.shelby.tn.us. You can get a lot of good research done online there. And memphisroom.wordpress.com. Dig Memphis, Digital Memphis. There's a lot of images in there that you can get. The West Tennessee Historical Society meets monthly. This Saturday they're meeting in Denmark, Tennessee, up near Jackson, on a field trip. And then the first Saturday in April is Patrick O'Daniel. I'm not sure the location. I'll get that next time. And then the first Monday night in April, and then the first Monday night in May is May 6th, and Jimmy Ogle will be at the Hooks Library. We're talking about some things about the bicentennial in Memphis in May, so I'll be back in town by that time for that. That week, Saturday before that, I'll be doing walking tours in downtown. Here's one of our first oldest tall buildings right there. I'm sure it fell over in the bluff sooner or later, but like I said, Mr. McCabe, I met at Mortimer's one time. He just moved here from California last year, and he says, I like to color pictures or draw new pictures. So he took that picture and drew this. So I gave him that Dig Memphis website and 10,000 more images to draw for us, because I think he does a good job. But here's some of the early scenes of our skyline, renderings, let's say, from the Arkansas side looking over. And this is basically kind of in that central portion, say, between Beale Street here over to about where the bridge would come in, the I-40 bridge there at the Convention Center. Here's another rendering here, the High Bluffs, no Riverside Drive, no Mud Island. St. Jude's right in here, Pyramids right in here. You got South Memphis all in here. Here's Memphis in the 1850s. This is Beale Street. Now, Beale Street did come all the way down to the river. When they put the sidewalk on there in 2002, they took out that Beale Street entry to the cobblestones. They took the one out at Court. One out at, Court as well. Monroe's the only entrance into the cobblestones now. And so that was a major entrance in up to Beale Street. And of course, all the steamboat captains hated it because their deckhands had been on the river for 10 days or 2 weeks, hadn't seen land, hadn't seen liquor, hadn't seen women. Where would they go? Beale Street. Would they come back? Mostly not. Either they got married, either they got lost, either they got killed, either they just quit. But Beale Street wasn't a happy landing for a lot of steamboats back in the 19th century. And this is the old, looks like a church steeple. That's the old Kentucky Coal Mining Company. I don't know why they had that long, tall. And here's the Gayoso Hotel right here. So that's the first Gayoso Hotel. It burned in 1898. The second one's now on that site right there in Beale Street going up. Here's another scene right here in the 1870s. Of course, that's where the law school is now, the former courthouse, customs house, and post office. There's Court Square, Union. Here's Beale Street right here. South Memphis, kind of a different street grid. They merged in 1850. Pyramid, St. Jude down here, Gayoso Bayou, Danny Thomas, all out in here. We still hadn't started our eastward grid yet during this time. Here's the wharf back during that time. After 1885, this building was built. 1893, this building was built. We'll come back to them in a minute. Look at the little wharf master's house right here. It's kind of cute. And all the people down on the wharf getting off and on boats. That was our airport at the time, you know. Memphis, 1889. They didn't have a drone or anything to do this, I don't think. So I don't know who drew this one, but he got up there. Maybe a hot air balloon, huh? Right, Willie? Okay. So if you're in the what we call the law school right now, you're looking down at Confederate Park. Here's the parking garage right here. There's the old train station, the Poplar Street station. This would be Poplar in front right here. City Hall would be all in here. This is Front Street. So obviously Confederate Park got built out. Now Fourth Bluff. Now I forget what it's now. It's still Fourth Bluff, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. There's a garage there now. But this is what it was like. It was kind of a storage area, trash heap for all the riverboats up to Front Street. Front Street was really the front street to the riverfront. Here's 1906, another view. So this is the other side. There's the courthouse, library, and this is the other parking garage. This building is still here. That's the Tennessee Trust building. This is the second wing of the Peabody Hotel that was built in 1903, I believe it was, there. And so this is a parking garage now. It's called Bluff Park. And right here would be the fire station, not the one you see now, but one that was built in the 1890s. So this is looking back up that way again. There's the fire station. There's the Bluff Park where the parking garage is now. There's the old library. And there's the now the law school. And we took these towers down in the 1920s when we built that wraparound portion of the law school later on. You see more construction coming in here now by 1915. Here's 1948 view. So Riverside Drive's already in. Finally, it came in 1935. You can see the expansion, the warehouse district down here south of Beale Street, the central business district all in here. There's the Steric building, 1930. No other tall building until 1964. Here's 1981, a view from the south looking north. This is where FedEx Forum is right now, believe it or not. This is that urban renewal I was telling you about, excuse me, in the other show. 15 projects, 572 acres, over 3,000 buildings were taken out by urban renewal in the 60s. We called it urban removal. A lot of it hadn't come back yet. That's how we got to build FedEx Forum in Gibson and Weston. You see, Handy was a Handy Circle being built in here. That got straightened out again. Rufus Thomas was gone, Hernando. You know, this is where the big Peabody Place parking garage is now. Here's where Hampton Inns is right now. That's where Service Master is now. You see, there's the Peabody. There's the Duck Palace right there. And again, this section, this is Alfred's and all that, looked just like what Silky's did. Now, they totally had, all the roof is gone and everything. You might see another picture later on about this. And they had the facade stood up like you see at Silky's now that they never built behind. But they did finish this out right here where Alfred's and all those office buildings are. This is where Jerry Lee Lewis's is now, parking. 1980, our skyline today, let's say, there's Mud Island, cobblestones, Pyramid. So here's Crosstown. Crosstown Concourse now. So our first big tall building, I would say, was the Marine Hospital. Brought up in 1884, built in 1884. The Marine Hospital located from like Napoleon, Arkansas, down past Helena. Big flood had kind of wiped them out. We wouldn't let them come inside the city. We kept them on the outskirts of the city limit after all our bouts with the yellow fever. We didn't want any more sick people coming into Memphis, so we thought we'd keep them out. Somehow the mosquitoes got through there, though, didn't they? And this building is still there. It's when you go down the driveway into the Metal Museum. It's the one on the right that has all the exhibits in it before you get to the smithy and the foundry. This building was actually moved 100 feet in the 1930s when they built the Veterans Hospital, the new Marine Hospital. Now, this Marine Hospital was industrial Marines of the river, not fighting Marines. They were the industrial Marines of the river. That's that type of Marine. Later on, the other one was the Veterans Hospital for fighting Marines, and then in the 90s, the Desert Storm had the reserves meeting in there. This is a vacant building right now, but Lauren Cruz apparently is developing that property soon. So this was built in 1939. French Fort after the Fort Assumption from 1739. You got the French Fort neighborhood right to the east of there, about 130 homes. Next building I'd say would be the 5-story United States Customs House, Courthouse, and Post Office. There's those high towers right there on each side. Don't you love this green pointer? Thank you. So this is still there, but you got the other building wrapped around it. You'll see in just a minute here. There it is. So you walk into this lobby, and you walk into the lobby of the other building. It's a great tour. It's like noon every Monday through Friday. Law students give the tour. University of Memphis, Cecil C. Humphrey School of Law since 2010. A couple years ago, Law Review voted it the finest law school facilities in the country. And right in front of it, right there, that's Madison Avenue. So when our city developed, it kind of started down the Pinch area, grew to the south with South Memphis. That's a very creative name, isn't it? South Memphis. That was the name of the town from 1844 to 1850, from basically Union Avenue to the train station, then from the train station on around to where the bridges are now, Fort Pickering. And they all got annexed as we grew along the bluff with transportation, being riverboats, and then rails came in the 1850s. By the 1890s and 1900s, the automobile, so that we kind of changed our orientation and went east-west then. So in 1905, we had consolidated and annexed, Manila and Idlewild and Binghamton and Lenox, all these communities, South Memphis, Fort Pickering. And so we had a lot of duplicate names of streets, or some names like Front Street was Chickasaw Front and Shelby. Had 3 different names in a 10-block area. So we consolidated names and numbers and brought them up to the north-south line right here. So 0 distance from Memphis is measured from this spot. If you come in there, I-40 or Sycamore View, you got 12 more miles to go, but you're in Memphis, you see. That's from this line right here. So you have equal distance from all directions, let's say north, south, east, west. So that's the 0 mile marker. It's put there in 1923, and that's 274 feet sea level. You get real curious, look around on the back side of it. 274 feet sea level right there. It's probably the highest point in downtown Memphis. That's why we're here on the high bluff. So there it is. And at the time, none of the business owners wanted to change their names or their addresses. If you look in some of the Paul Kopic books, you'll have a building that was built in the 1880s, but he's writing about it in the 1950s, and he has a different address in the 1930s when a different business was there. So it'll say old numbering system or new numbering system. That occurred in 1905 when you're cross-referencing and looking up buildings that are still there. And a lot of people didn't want to do it, and it got to be a real problem. So finally the government said, well, the United States Post Office cannot knowingly deliver mail to a wrong address. Right? Knowingly. So they stopped delivering mail until people changed their address to the new address. That's how that happened. If you want your mail, change your address. We did that with Bishop Calhoun and Bishop G.E. Patterson. We've done it with Willis. Not as many businesses on there as affecting a whole city. That north-south line takes you out to East High School. There's still one of those concrete markers in there on homes. One of the few concrete markers right there. It says north and south right there. Then it flips over to Walnut Grove being your north-south all the way out. So here's a view of that courtroom. This is probably the courtroom. On August 18th, we'll have the Women's Suffrage Memorial Ceremony for that dedication on the property here. This is what's Confederate Park and all that. There's the law school. Looking down, because you can see now, here's the what we call the law school now. It's the Customs House, Post Office, and courthouse. The courthouse in the 1960s went to the Federal Building. The Customs House went to the airport. The Post Office stayed there until about 2008. 20% of the building, very underutilized building. That's how they got the law school there. Of course, this part of some of these wings and this roof got torn down off the library there. You can see the Bluff Park, the old fire station. There's Front Street Deli. We hadn't had the street widening ordinance in 1922 yet, so that whole building is still there. And you can see some of the buildings in that area. Of course, there's the cobblestones. This is low water time of the year as well. No Riverside Drive at this point in time. See, just the railroad tracks, no Riverside Drive. Tennessee Brewery, 1888, down there. A true tonic for worn nerves and the tired brain. Yeah, so we ought to start serving it right now, shouldn't we? But it's a beautiful building, 1888. You see what has been done to that lately. Of course, the 51, they were brewing a Pilsner beer, Jake Shore. This is Jake Shore at, what's the name of that place? Westie's. Now, Bill was eating dinner there last night. Took a six-pack of Goldcrest 51 on the road, too, right? But Jake's great-grandfather, grandfather, father all worked there. Jake used to ride switching engines there in the 1940s and 50s. It was just a real thrill for him. I got to interview him on the radio the other day. Of course, the building has been saved after being empty for a long time. They had a pre-vitalization party, if you remember that, and got Billy Ogle interested. A lot of people like to think I'm Billy Ogle. I'm Jimmy Ogle. I wish I had his money when they call, you know. I wish I had his money. I'll listen for about 5 minutes before I tell them, you called the wrong number. Council people always do that, like Bill Boyd, and I just listen to the complaints and then, no. This on top, look at the view from on top of there. This is a panoramic shot I took from one bridge to the other bridge. Just a beautiful view right there. Of course, after Prohibition, they were brewing nib, non-intoxicating beverage, nib, during Prohibition there. And then they went to Goldcrest 51 on the 51st year of their brewing in 1938, apparently. Here's the Cossett Library. How many of y'all remember that? That's just, everybody gets so sad about this, you know. And I think it's a 50-50 deal. Yeah, there was a mid-century modern architectural movement to modernize, but also there were some structural problems with the sandstone and the mortar in between them too. So it's just a shame. It's not. And wouldn't that just be a gorgeous sight on our front street right there? Law school or not, what we have now is fine. But just look at that right there. Just freeze that in your mind for a minute. B. Lowenstein and Brothers on Main Street. It's now residential mostly. Service Master has got an office in there. Right next to the Lincoln American Tower. This is another one of those buildings on the hit list for a long time. Finally got saved, even after the fire, 2006, 1888. And this other gold number here is when it went on the National Register of Historic Places. So this is when the building opened. This is when it gets on the National Register there. Tennessee Club, right there at Court Square. Here's an old rendering there. 1890 it was built. There's a less modern picture. Of course, Birch Porter Johnson's there now. Here's some interiors I found. Remember we had magazines? You get your mailbox. Remember that? The D.T. Porter building, one of my favorite buildings downtown because there's the first steel frame skyscraper over 10 stories high in downtown Memphis. That was all the new big deal in construction. You can see the buildings beside it right here. 3 stories. Those were load-bearing walls, like 3 bricks thick each, load-bearing walls. They couldn't go up much higher because it's like the game Jenga. You ever play Jenga? Get real high, it starts leaning, you know what I mean? So you couldn't go much higher than that. So when you did this, was all the rage. The first one to have an elevator over 10 stories high, people paid 10 cents to ride up the elevator, and they're afraid to ride it down, so they walked to get down. Being the tallest building in Memphis at the time, you can stand on a manhole cover right here, one over at Main and Madison, and you can stand right there and see the tallest buildings in Memphis as they became the tallest buildings in Memphis from one spot on my tour. Probably on Jordan's tour too, right? But this was the tallest building at the time. And they only had windows on the north side and the west side because they were looking at the river and looking at Court Square and no other things blocking you. And they thought, this being all the rage in construction, they're going to build a bunch of tall buildings behind there. Who would want to look out a window into another building? So if you look at the D.T. Porter building, there's no windows on the east side or obviously on the south side here. There's big murals there. Now when they renovated in 1985, they did the little row windows down the center where the condos came in there, but that's kind of an odd reason there. Now, D.T. Porter was one of our presidents of the taxing district during the yellow fever. He was a very good citizen. And he left $150,000 behind in his will. This building was originally built as a Continental Loan building. And so he left $150,000 behind in his will for his family to build a memorial to him when he died. They bought this building and put his name on it. So be careful where you leave your money, folks. Right there, Dr. D.T. Porter. Scimitar building, you know that, they're at 3rd and Madison, or B.B. King and Madison. It's the Hotel Napoleon now, named for Napoleon Hill, who built the building. He had his house right next door where the Steric building is, a very grand-looking house, kind of like Xanadu not Kevin Kane, but Citizen Kane, the movie, or whatever that house they had. And he had his initials placed in the window turrets on this side over here. It's kind of neat to see the N and the H when you're going down Madison Avenue in there. Of course, Memphis Light, Gas, and Water was in there, as well as the Scimitar, Press Scimitar newspaper. They moved from here to over on South Main in 1970. There's a nice shot right there. It used to be a Madison liquor right there. Gayosa Hotel, 1902. This is the second version after the first one burned down. Again, it was the Peabody before there was the Peabody, then finally the Chiska opened, and the Claridge and the Parkview, and finally came in the next tier of hotels, getting older. I worked in that building in 1979 when it was a part of Goldsmith's warehousing. The Galesa Hotel, built by Robertson Top, the first one was, who developed Beale Street early on. Here's some of the keys and soap dishes and little tchotchkes from Hotel Gayoso. Tennessee Trust Building is formerly the Madison Hotel. It just got changed to the Hugh Hotel, H-U. That's not a Chinese name or anything, like who's on first. I need to show that slide again, don't I? Because it was a guy named Who was on first. Anyway, H-U. We got a picture of it, no kidding. But it's Tennessee Trust Building, a bank building. There's 8 big bank buildings on Madison Avenue between Madison and 4th, you see. It became the Madison Hotel later on. This is the next tallest building in Memphis, 16 stories tall in 1904. Hugh being for Hugh Brinkley, a brother or relative of Robert Brinkley, who built the Peabody Hotel at Main and Madison. H-U, Hugh, the Brinkleys. They helped build the railroad over to Little Rock after the Civil War. And there was a place called, about halfway between Memphis and Little Rock was a place called Pan Lick. That's where they ate the meals every night, and they licked the pans clean. That's the story behind Pan Lick, which became Brinkley, Arkansas. A little bit better name, Brinkley, right? And this is the Hugh. That's why you got the H-U. You can really stump your friends on that because they think it's some Chi-Com investor doing that or something, you know. And they're expanding the building too. Commercial title building, one of my favorite stories when you stand by the 3 manhole covers from 3 different telephone companies within 25 feet of each other from 100 years ago. You look at this building. This is actually 2 buildings. The south side was built in 1904 and the north side was built in 1914. See that little color right up the middle there? 10 years apart. There's 3 buildings in a 2-block area that are built 10 years apart. This is the Commerce Title Building right there. Isn't that unusual? We'll show you a picture here. See, it's only 2 columns right there. Oh, I'm sorry, right here. See, that's in 1908. Here it is again now. 4 columns. See? You didn't believe me, did you? Promise. The appeal building there at 2nd and Court, where the commercial appeal was before it moved to 495 Union Avenue. There's the flag that's down on the Liberty Bowl now. Here's the welcome wagon. Bridges opened welcome wagon here in the 1920s. Had that big globe on top of the building. Wish it was still there. The YMCA building downtown, 1909. Right past AutoZone Park. President Taft came down and dedicated it. We paved Madison Avenue past the YMCA to make it look like we were a big city. It's one of the first paved streets in Memphis to get the president down there to it. Here he is right there. The Judge D. Army Bailey Courthouse opened in 1910. Again, my last tour of the Judge D. Army Bailey Courthouse will be Friday, March 15th at 11:30, right after we do the Andrew Jackson ceremony. You cannot duplicate this building. It's such a great building. That's blue Bedford limestone all around. You see the 6 pediments right here. We'll come back to that in a minute. You got the 6 statues around it. On the north side, you got 6 more statues. Here's a good shot right here. That tree's not there right now. This tulip poplar tree was planted about 30 years ago in the 75th anniversary of the courthouse. It's the tree, our state tree that grows in all 95 counties. The sculptors are these statues right here. The 6 names are Prosperity, Peace on 2nd, Authority and Liberty on Adams, and then Justice and Wisdom on 3rd. They're the largest of their kind in the country. They were $5,000 each. The sculptor was Massey Rind, R-H-I-N-D, cut from a single block of Tennessee marble. There they are. That's where I hide your knives and stuff when you can't take them in the courthouse on the tour. I come back and hide it under Miss Liberty's skirt right there. You can't bring a gun on the tour, but you can bring a camera. It's the only time you can bring a camera in there. So there's my secret hiding place under Miss Liberty's skirt. Don't tell anybody. The north side figurines now, there's 6 of them: integrity, courage, mercy, temperance, prudence, and learning. A little bit bigger than me, double the life size, let's say. And here they are on that Washington Avenue side right there, okay? And there's a funny story about this, because twice, this is what's wrong with our government, okay? My theory. But in 1947, a lightning bolt hit Integrity's head and knocked it off, okay? We lost our integrity in 1947, but we glued it back on, okay? Twice, see these rooftop air conditioning units in the 60s they put on the building? Twice they knocked off Learning's head. What's the 2 worst things in our community right now? Integrity and learning, right? See, okay. And they glued it back on. Now when you get up there and look at it, Learning's head's got about half of the lobe missing back here too. So when you look real close, better than that. That's on the north side. Now you get the pediments. Those are those triangles they call pediments. You got the web or the scene inside there. This is the scene. There are 6 scenes in there to represent different aspects of law: religious, statutory, common, Roman, civil, and criminal. This is Minerva, the Roman goddess of wisdom, right here. The Andrew Jackson bust inside, that's cast on Andrew Jackson, 1835, in the White House. There's 7 different kinds of marble, cubic mahogany wood. It's just an incredible building, an incredible tour. Exchange Building was the next tallest building, built in 1910, right there at 2nd and Madison, 19 stories tall. It had both the Cotton Exchange and the Merchants Exchange in there at the time. Then the Cotton Exchange moved over in 1924, closer to the cotton industry. Here's a rendering of some skyscrapers at that time. Again, this is Tennessee Trust, Goodwin Institute, Exchange Building, D.T. Porter, looking east down Madison Avenue, no Steric building yet. 76, Memphis, 3 great building eras right here. So here's the 1890s, here's 1924, there's 1965. I think Jordan took that picture. I'll give you credit for it, okay? Back to the Cotton Exchange Building. That was right there where the Exchange Building is now. This is the building they tore down in the 1890s to build what you see as the Exchange Building now, which is residential. Falls Building, 1912 at Court in front, built exclusively for cotton merchants in 1912, because from 1880 to 1920, 70% of the cotton crop in America was within 200 miles of Memphis, so we're the cotton capital of the world. Right on top here was the Alaskan Roof Garden, a nightclub, like the Skyway Room, like the Balinese Ballroom around, and W.C. Handy in 1916 premiered the St. Louis Blues out of that ballroom right there on top of the Falls Building. How many remember the Union Station? Yeah. Beautiful Union Station. This is right where 2nd runs into now Patterson. That's the bulk mail center now. This was built in 1912. The Central Station, 2 blocks away, was built in 1914. We had 2 train stations. We had 9 train stations by the 1890s. We wanted to consolidate them into one location down in South Memphis where all the warehousing and trucking and the bridge access was and everything, rather than everybody coming through the middle of town. That was the purpose there. In South Main, not a real tall building, but one of my favorite buildings to talk about is right there. This is where the market is right now, the mall, food mall, at 409 South Main in Hewling, right there. And you got this little Puck Boy on the top, looks like Johnny Appleseed, but that's Puck Boy from the Midsummer Night's Dream. You didn't know I knew Shakespeare, did you? And it's on the building right there. That's kind of a neat. White, Wilson, and Drew was the grocery company distributor there. Lucky Cosmetics later on. Hotel Chiska, 1913, right there at Main and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Avenue. Replaced the old Bijou Theater that was there. Here's some of the interiors. Central Station. We'll come back. Well, let's just go ahead and say it now. Back in 1954, that's when the first Elvis song ever played over the radio. Dewey Phillips played That's All Right, Mama on July the 8th. Had to play it over 15 times on the mezzanine level. Central Station, 1914, still there, being converted into a boutique hotel. The Powerhouse, Malco Powerhouse Theater opens March 7th. 7 screens down there, folks, at front, and G.E. Patterson, right around that side of the property on the Front Street side. That's going to be a nice addition right there. Y'all remember catching trains in New Orleans, or points west, or points east, or points north? I remember many times. Bill, the Railroad Trolley Museum will hopefully be back in once all the big construction's done.
It's supposed to be once the construction's open.
Mainly open on weekends, staffed by volunteers. Just a great history there of our railroad and trolley industry. 1916, not a tall building, but certainly a very influential one there at 79 Jefferson Avenue. Piggly Wiggly changed the way the world traveled in 1960. Some guy has to do with this building, right? He never lived here, but he worked there. Just didn't like the way things were going. In fact, you can see the replica up here that's still moved right when you go outside here of the first Piggly Wiggly with the turnstile. Imagine going to Kroger now and having to walk aisle by aisle with everybody else. How many murders would there be in Kroger, you know? And the milk would always be in the very back, right? Make you walk through. You go to High Point, you're in 20 feet of the milk from your car. High Point Grocery. Seriously. I can do it blind. I walked through that store with my eyes closed one time just to prove I could shop. I'll buy 5 items, but, you know. Here's another view of downtown 1923. Kind of still, we still got a kind of a primitive riverfront here. No Riverside Drive yet. Got the railroad tracks. But not a lot of building all in this area yet. Big building boom in the 1920s. The Farnsworth buildings at Union and Maine. Three Sisters building, you would know it as probably in the 60s. And there is some fenestration right there, right? Somebody told me the word fenestration. Was it you? Okay. Joey Hagan said it was icing. It's fenestration, a little decorative treatment right there on the building. Office building now, the Shrine building at Monroe in front, built in 1923 by the Shriners. It's now residential, beautiful building. Hotel Claridge, 1924, as a big hotel. Again, the 1950s. What we did in the 1950s when Kimmons Wilson opened up the first overnight roadside lodging chain out on the U.S. highways, that really hurt the downtown hotel industry. They tried to adjust by building parking garages next to them. That's why you have the parking garage where Comfort Inn is now, right next to it. That's why you have the parking garage by the Steric building, which is a Hotel Indigo now. It was built as a Holiday Inn there on top of that. Peabody built a garage. Everybody tried to build a garage to adjust to post-World War II. Everybody with automobiles now, like they never had before. Didn't work. Highways took over. Then the expressways took it away from the highways later on, as you can see. Beautiful room here, the Balinese Ballroom. Beautiful building. Here's some matchbooks and stuff. Chicken in the rough. Now you're looking from the top of the Lincoln American Tower north. There's Ellis Auditorium. There's Hotel Claridge. I-40 be coming right through here. Pyramid will be about right here. St. Jude about right here. You can see the courthouse. You can see First United Methodist Church. Ellis. Again, City Hall, Federal Building, and then the county building's right in here. You can see the Crump building right there. Ellis Auditorium, 1924. A great building. I remember going in there. Here's the construction of it. You can see the train station that used to be there. Looks like a church, doesn't it? Some people confuse that in some of the history talks that is a church. It was not. It's the train station Casey Jones picked up his last ride on in 1900, though. You see it, there's the train station. You see all the train tracks all in there. Come right up this riverfront, right through the edge of downtown. All those have been rerouted through the Beltline now, all those industrial trains. Just really the one passenger trains twice daily comes through anymore, unless there's an emergency. Okay, you can kind of see downtown kind of growing up. Well, this time, this is right in the late 1920s. You can see the industry down here where it's a parking lot now and expressways coming through here. Again, this was the industrial riverfront all through here until the 1950s. Bob Hope. Y'all have heard of Bob Hope, haven't you? Look at these. I remember going to the circus down there. It's just so cool to be in that Ellis Auditorium, North Hall. Here's some of the appointments that were saved. I believe the organ was at Bartlett United Methodist Church now. There's Elvis. John Philip Sousa, he was an assistant conductor when he came to Memphis in 1924, and the real conductor, or the whatever, master conductor got sick, so he got to direct a symphony here for the first time, or an orchestra in Memphis. Of course, that's the tune, King Cotton March, we march the ducks out to every day. I met his granddaughters last year doing that. That was neat. The Two Kings, this picture was taken on the Ellis Auditorium stage in 1955. That's Elvis on the left and B.B. King on the right. Y'all got that right? One's 10 years older than the other. B.B. was 10 years older than Elvis, and Ernest Withers, the great photographer, took this picture. Now, who would have thought that 50 or 60 years later, those two kids would have been immortalized a block away in the State Welcome Center? That tells you more about Memphis music than anything else, I think, right there. Our two kings of music. King Cotton is another king. Cotton Exchange, 1924, over from Court Square to get the cotton brokers closer to the cotton industry, the factors and all that cotton on the sidewalk. Parkview Hotel, 1924. See how many buildings were built in 1924? Out there at Overton Park. Fairyland Amusement Park was there before, and it burned down in the late 19-teens, and it became Parkview Hotel in that area. A retirement home now, beautiful, beautiful facility to this day. Lowenstein's downtown. This is the former site of where the first Peabody Hotel was. It was built in 1869. One building, 60 rooms, $75,000, and then in 1903 you expanded by 200 rooms. That other tower I showed you, $350,000. So after 50 years, a Civil War era building was just too old. So with utilities and phones and things like that. So they built the Peabody you know right now in 1925, 625 rooms at the time for $5 million. They've since expanded some rooms, made two into one, let's say, so it's 464 rooms, I think, right now, is what the current Peabody is. But that was the location. So this building was built there for Lowenstein's, their third Lowenstein store on Main Street. The second being the one there, the B. Lowensteins and Brothers by Court Square. and another one's right where the Sleep Inn is now. Lincoln American Tower, 1924, my favorite building downtown, particularly at night when you're on the river looking back at the light shining on it. There's this big white edifice there, and it's beautiful. It was the tallest building at the time in 1924. I think it's 22 stories tall, right? 22. I love that little couple up there. Every once in a while, he lets me go up there through somebody else's apartment to get there. And it's a scale model of the Woolworth building in New York City. You see, it's about a third scale model. They just had less footprint to build here. So if you look at these two buildings side by side, they look pretty similar, don't they? That's me up there on top of that couple. That's how you get to it, by the way. One of the ways you get up to it is that circular staircase all through the old water tank there. And these are your views from up there. There's Tom Lee Park. There's Mud Island to the west. Here's the pyramid to the northwest, and there's AutoZone Park right field, right down there through those buildings. Right, great views up there. And if the projector had the right color here, this would be green grass and green trees at Court Square. You don't ever get this view of Court Square. This is the bird's eye view from up here. Isn't that a beautiful view of Court Square right there? Medical Arts Building, 1925, 1926. That's right across from the YMCA. That's being renovated right now for condos and buildings down there. I helped consult on that a little bit with some of the features in the lobby they want to display. There was like 7 medical arts or dentists in the building during the middle of the century there. Demond Building on B.B. King Boulevard, it's totally empty right now. My understanding it's going to become a boutique hotel. Again, it has a lot of neat Art Deco features on it. If you look at some of these, that's really neat, I think. This thing really goes around, doesn't it? It's my wrist. The Peabody Hotel, 1925. There's a more modern picture right there. Mississippi Delta begins in the lobby of the Peabody Hotel and ends at Catfish Row in Vicksburg, Mississippi. That's from David Cohn's book, Where I Was Born and Raised. And Jack Beltz's quote is, "As long as there's a Memphis, there will always be a Peabody." He says that on the video there. It's a great quote at the end of the video. There's the ducks, there's the marsh, there's a fountain. The Skyway Room came in 1939. They figured they're losing about 6 months' worth of revenue not having a covered roof up there, you know. And so that was built, that beautiful Art Deco room there. One of 3 rooms in the nation that broadcast swing music over the CBS radio network. Sam Phillips was an engineer there doing that. Getting bored with it, so he went to Beale Street to pick up on that blues. How about this for a rooftop party? That's a stunt from the Mid-South Fair. I don't think we'd let them do that again, but can you imagine that? Hello? Don't try it. Now, don't blame me if somebody does this in April, okay? I don't want to get blamed for that. I just think that's an incredible picture right there. Willie, do you know these folks? Okay, okay. This looks like somebody from Rolling Fork to me, you know. Sears Crosstown. Golly, this was built in actually 5 different stages, what you see now apparently. The first stage was right here in 1927, the first big retail outlet outside of downtown. Of course, y'all remember the Sears and Roebuck catalog we all fought over. And this was the fulfillment house, the all warehouse back through there. The store was kind of on the first 2 levels, as I recall. It reminds me of the store scene you see in A Christmas Story, that movie. That's where I first saw Santa Claus, by the way, too, as I recall in my life. Back then, not in 1927, but when I was in the 50s. Obviously now, again, they expanded on back. The railroad track came right by there. That's one reason why it was built there. The railroad track was influential. I think that's the Vecca Green Line now. The garage came in. Here's some of the construction scenes right here. Here's a picture of 50 years in Memphis in the 1970s, still operable there, looking from the east to the west to the skyline. And now I guess I better put Crosstown Concourse, better mention that. Gosh, $200 million urban vertical village. Now, I remember interviewing Todd Richardson about 5 years ago on Earl's show. I was filling in one day, and here's this art professor from the University of Memphis got this idea, you know, and he was with Crosstown Arts, and it grew and grew and grew, and they got the money, and it's just an incredible development. In 2011, Crosstown, Hotel Chiska, Tennessee Brewery, Claiborne Temple, and the 19th Century Club were all empty. And on the top 5 of the hit list for most buildings likely by the Memphis Heritage to be torn down. That's the ones they wanted to save. All of them were saved. And this $200 million urban vertical village now with the residents, and there's 7 or 9 different atriums. You see the 2 big public atriums, but to get, let's go back here, to get people that living in this area here, again, these are big old warehouse floors. They put atriums all in here. If you can see it from the sky. It's just amazing when you go on a little tour in there and see all those other atriums in there. Church Health Center. There's a brewery out back. There's a new theater, restaurants, beautiful common areas. I know I'm going to leave something out. Good hot roasted peanuts there, I can tell you that. Just a great place to go to and a great rehab story. They're going to win a lot of awards at Crosstown Concourse, and I sure hope y'all get by there and enjoy it. 10 hours? I'm getting close. 1927, the Crest Building. It's still downtown. You had Crest and you had Crest Gay, or Kmart, and they competed, but they had a little agreement. If you're in Nashville, you can go to Memphis. If I'm in Jackson, you can go to Little Rock. So they kind of stayed out of each other's territory. And Crest actually started in Memphis on South Main. This is like the second building. But what he did when he got to be big, every city he was in, he'd make his #1 store a real showcase place. I mean, this looks, if you go down there and look at all this Art Deco and color and all that, it looks like an opera house or a movie theater, really. And it's a real showcase building there with all this trim and Art Deco and eagles and lines on it and everything. And now that's a part of the Spring Hill Suites. It's suites and it's meeting rooms in there. So it's been repurposed and saved, thankfully, by Spring Hill Suites next door. Hotel King Cotton, it's gone, but it was imploded. Let's see. There's the Elks Hotel before that. What was another name?
Hotel Devoy.
Hotel Devoy. Alsonet was a hotel company that also managed the Peabody once in a while in the 1950s. Here's being built right here. I don't know who that dude is, but he's proud to have an unfinished building right behind his picture, so he must be somebody associated with the building of it. Here's the implosion of it right here in 1984. I was at the Park Commission at the time and got caught on a Sunday afternoon by it because the next day all the sons of Confederate veterans called and fussed at me for not having the Jefferson Davis statue covered. They all got all that soot all over it. I didn't know they're going to implode. They weren't telling you where they're imploding buildings back then for people's safety. But you get to 2006, what do they do at the Baptist Hospital? They put up bleachers and sell tickets, don't they? And televise it. So that was kind of a quiet thing. So I really learned about who I need to talk with about when they do hotel building implosions. And let's see. It's the stock hotel implosion or building implosion you see on movies such as Heathers, and then My Name is Earl. Season 1, episode 11. Next time you watch Season 1, episode 11. This is my Hotel King Cotton expert right here, folks. He lives in the Lincoln American Tower, and his mother and grandmother run that place. You know, if you know Della Adams and Peggy. And we get good refreshments at the end of our Court Square tours there, too. And when you go into the Lincoln American Tower, they took glass bricks from the building next door, where on the floor glass bricks, and they turned them over, and they made the reception table out of the glass bricks. They repurposed those glass bricks. It's the coolest reception place with these big Don Newman photographs in there, too, of the building. So now you know all you need to know about the implosion of the King Cotton Hotel, if you want to visualize it. Hotel Tennessee, that's now the DoubleTree right there across from the Peabody and AutoZone Park. And the Hilton Garden Inn opened last week, right where the bus station was, there by it. Orpheum Theater. Anybody heard of the Orpheum Theater? Opened 1928. There's the Grand Opera House it replaced. Here's it under construction. Jim, were you involved in that construction there? Lucia, were you? No, okay. These chandeliers here, for example, are from glass factories in Czechoslovakia. They were all bombed out in World War II. How do you find glass from World War II from Czechoslovakia? It's very rare when you go start doing repairs here. Just a gorgeous building. A lot better when our projector's right. 1940 to 1976, Malco ran it. Michael A. Lightman Company is a first-run movie theater. We had 5 big movie theaters in downtown. The Four of Us and House of a Thousand Pleasures was the last movie there. Really? You know anything about the House of a Thousand Pleasures? You're a movie buff. Okay, it was a good movie, huh? It closed. It was offered in 76, I think, to the city for $100,000, and the city said, nah, we don't want it. And MLG&W was going to tear it down, and a group was founded by William Matthews, am I right? Lucia Gilliland. Can you stand up for a second? You don't want to stand up? Just so you'll see, Lucia. We got to live in history here, folks. I think what Sybil Shepherd might have helped a little bit, too. There's a group of folks called Memphis Development that came together, a foundation, right? And raised about $285,000 or something and bought it then in the late 70s. And gosh, you pump along. You know, Bill Street's closed from 77 to 83. In 1979, there's more people living in jail in downtown Memphis than living residentially. 500 live downtown. There's 1,000 in jail. The politicians wanted to build a bigger jail. But the citizens wanted to save old buildings and make something out of them, put life into them. Thankfully, our citizens, like y'all, like the Beltzes and the Turleys, came around. Peabody was bought for $540,000 on the courthouse steps. They outbid Prince Mongo. Did Prince Mongo bid for the balcony? He'd had a good time in there, wouldn't he? The Lorraine Motel was saved for $144,000. And the Orpheum here, for less than $1 million in 7 years, we saved the Peabody, the Orpheum, and the Lorraine Motels. Those are the three cultural cornerstones of downtown Memphis right now, isn't it? And no city has those. Over 100 days of Broadway now. In 1984, it was like 14 days, so things have really kicked in down there. There's old Malco in the Halloran Center. Of course, Pat Halloran was a pretty good hire there, I think, at the Orpheum. And a nice new building here with a small theater for smaller shows, production, educational workshops. William Lynn Hotel, 1930. The sign actually says 1927 on it. I got to get that corrected, but this was built at Madison and Monroe in the 1930s, an Art Deco hotel. William Lynn Seaman was a cotton man from Arkansas. Beautiful Art Deco hotel to this day. It's a Residence Inn by Marriott. A lot of great features in there. I don't understand how an Art Deco hotel has a football for a dinner menu, but that's okay. Historic building in 1930, the tallest building in the entire South when it was built in 1930. The last skyscraper built in Memphis, basically for 34 years, tall skyscrapers. Because of the Depression, World War II, and post-World War II suburbanization of our community at the time, until 1964 when the First Tennessee Bank building was built as First National Bank, right across the street. And then 1965 is the next tallest building, the 100 North Main building. Here's Court Square in the 1930s, looking around it. There's Steric, Exchange, Goodwin, No First Tennessee, Porter. And there's the small 10 South Main. Here's some other old rendering there. There's Old Mud Island. It's Old Muddy Sandbar. All that would be underwater at this water level right now. It would be underwater. It was. It was a muddy sandbar. Crump said it ought to be beautified or dynamited. They tried to dynamite it. It still wouldn't go away. Old Man River has a mind of its own, so they tried to beautify it with Mud Island. Now people are living out there. Here's that view from the 100 North Main building. It's totally empty right now, being speculated on for residential and hotel. I think the company that's going to do that is going to build a new building in Civic Center Plaza, according to Kevin Kane on the radio last week, talking about that. So it's been intentionally drawn down. I just remember getting my swimming suit on in the 1964 when I was 12 years old. Now you know how old I am, right? If you can add or subtract. And riding the bus down from East Memphis to go swim on the top floor. There was a swimming pool up there. Then you went to lunch at the 100 North Main building, the top of the 100 Club at the top. And there was a Japanese garden on the rooftop up there, too. And I'll finish with Helen of Memphis. Of course, my mother's name was Helen. Oh, look at you. Oh, shut your mouth. Goodness. Oh, look at her. That's the type of reaction I want to get. This is out there where Cecil's used to be. You miss it, too, don't you? Yeah. Out there on Union Avenue, but I would not go in the Helen shop. My mother would I'd sit in the car. I would not go into a women's clothes. Roll the window down too. But my mother, you know my mother Helen, you know how nice she was. And I was doing it, and a lady, I showed this, and a lady from St. Luke's came up and showed me her jacket she was wearing. This is 2 years ago, from Helen of Memphis. Just like you probably still got a jacket that has a label and it says Helen of Memphis. That's what our memories are all about, you know. The moral of this story is sometimes a good definition for the word progress is making things as good as they once used to be. Think about these old buildings we've repurposed and saved, from the Orpheum to the Tennessee Brewery to the Claiborne Temple. It's just amazing, and I think that's a great story. Here's the new wing there, the 60s wing, let's say, of the Chiska. So there I am. That's the end of the show. Thank you for coming today. JimmyOgle.com. Like I say, if you're ever in that super low there on Spotswood, and they give you all the prices, and you go, thanks for shopping Super Low Foods, and tell a friend. Remember that guy? So one night I'm in there, and I go up late night and check out, and the guy goes, you want anything else? I said, you're the voice. It just freaked him out, because he was the guy that was the voice of that thing. You know, like the voice in the Field of Dreams or something, you know. It scared me to death. We were both shocked, sitting there. I guess we're supposed to shop. Nicest grocery store there is, nicest guy. How about a moving sidewalk in 1950 on the Goldsmiths? So Goldsmiths downtown was the first one to have air conditioning, the first department store, and the first one to have a escalator. Y'all always wondered about that line, Roaring in the MGM movie. He's from Memphis. That's how they took that picture. I'm not scared of you. You know, am I? Thank our sponsors again. Vincent, Astor, what a great guy he is. Phyllis Peterson, what a great gal she is. Eric Erickson Group, what a great guy he is. University of Memphis Libraries and Communities and Conversation Series at Rhodes College. That does us, doesn't it, Willie? Whoops, I just went off the air. Thank y'all for coming today. I'll stick around for questions and answers. Thursday is the origins and oddities of the streets and bridges of Memphis. You don't think that's one of my favorite topics? And that's going to be really cool. And then the next week is Civil War on Monday, memorials and historical markers on Thursday. March 11th will be Women in Memphis History. End up with Memphis in the 1970s to now. That's the last one on Thursday, March 14th. I think that we're going to try to have a remote broadcast here from KWAM on the Women's Show, and afterwards have little folks after being interviewed on the radio during that time of Women in Memphis History. Would be kind of special too. But that's one I really like to highlight, because we'll have a women's trail you can drive and look at all the women's history in Memphis by the end of this year through Memphis Area Council of Women and Women of Achievement. You're going to want to hear these stories, I think. Thank y'all for coming. Hey, remember when this Friday? I want y'all to call in. I'm going to bug you about that. 260-5926. I need people to call in after 4 o'clock and give me your memories. Go down to Metro Eats, okay? Shut your mouth. Yes.